Hi, everybody. This is Gigi, and this week I have the pleasure of having my dear friend Kim Hall, who's a specialist in the field of fall prevention and safety, something that we all know is very important, whether you're at home or standing out in the garden or playing with your kids. But nowadays is even more important because a lot of us are spending a lot of time at home. Kim had over 15 years of experience and had also developed her own tools and assessments for this particular kind of program, whether it's in the home or virtually now. We're doing a lot of our work virtually. And she's done this throughout Southern California. And it's my pleasure today to introduce Kim Hall of a company who's associated with Wellness on Wheels now, We All Fall. So I'm going to let Kim tell us a little bit about herself and tell us, what kind of inspired you to get into this field.
Gosh, thank you, Gigi. I'm so happy to be associated with Wellness on Wheels and all the wonderful people that you work with. And I, as a fall prevention and home and public space specialist, really am passionate about fall prevention. Uh, I got into this, I kind of fell into this, I guess you could say, some years ago. When I was young, I became very aware of how serious falling could be. My grandmother took care of my great grandmother. I used to see them struggle in the bathroom. My great grandmother had Alzheimer's or memory loss, and it just looked and sounded horrible. It sounded like I didn't know what was going on. I was about 10, and I just remember my great grandmother reaching in the bathroom and saying it was cold, and my grandmother, just being the caregiver, just trying to get through this bath time. And I thought, oh my gosh, I would never take a bath. This is crazy. Um, but I didn't really realize what I was seeing until much later in life, probably after I became a fall prevention specialist. And what I was seeing was, my great grandmother didn't have anything to hold on to. We know that memory loss, a lot of times the bath time is horrible anyway. It probably would have been good to have a safety chair there, or safety tape so that she felt more protected. And so my grandmother, as a caregiver, probably should have had some things as well. So that's kind of how I became aware of fall prevention, just fear. And then another situation occurred in 1992 after the earthquake. My oldest daughter was about 6 months, and I was looking for her in the dark as the ground shook, and she was laying in the bed next to myself and my husband. And I jumped up and I started looking for her, and I couldn't find her. And she was balled up in the corner. And I grabbed her and I held her close to my chest, and I was like, oh, I felt such relief. And being my first, I was really, I won't say that I was overly protective, but I was definitely, this was new, trying to care for someone else, especially in a situation like that. Later, maybe a day or two later, I had heard that a woman in Northridge had the same experience. The ground was shaking, and she started running to her son's room to care for him, to grab him, to hold him, to comfort him. And she ended up falling and tripping over his toys and never made it to him. She died.
Yeah.
Um, and to know that someone was in the same exact situation as I was, and things could have been differently if the toys had been off the ground, set some things in motion in my household, and probably everyone else's household, that I felt passionate, about telling them. Um, and I,
Wow.
I yeah.
That's pretty intense. Those are some pretty moving events in your life. So do these things inspire you to kind of like look for a career in this? How did you actually come about to think like, oh, I want to do this for a living? I mean, it's not like the standard career path for people. It's like, was there even a place where you can get some training, or what was there a platform for any kind of like education or anything?
Yes, I didn't actively look for a job in fall prevention. Like I said, I kind of fell into it, and really, I started with taking a class at USC and the executive program, home modification program, and it was a certificated program, and it just really, again, supported what I had started to believe and started to live like, and that is that falls are preventable. And you can research products and you can help people in their homes. And it was an excellent program, an excellent starting point. I am certified for many years, as well as I'm certified as a certified aging in place specialist.
Oh, okay.
Really means that I take extra care of our seniors and understand how they feel. And I just try to let them know that there's no judgment in this, service. It really is about how to age gracefully at home and to educate and to provide resources.
And that's what we're kind of doing for everybody in these programs that we're doing weekly, Kim, that we're really trying to help people stay up to date with resources, especially because many seniors now and their families are kind of cohabitating for the first time in one way or another. We're not able to do a lot of placements because everything is on lockdown, as you know. And so many of these seniors are not able to get out, even of their own homes. They're restricted. And so we're trying to find tools and resources for both them and their caregivers or their families to make their lives easier, to help them adjust to this transition, whether it's a permanent one or just a temporary one till we can find an alternative space for them and housing outside their home. So there are a lot of issues that people are dealing with, and plus the frustration of understanding the care process and the caregiving process. So when you go into someone's home, what does it look like? What do you actually are looking for? What are you assessing? I mean, it sounds so complicated because I know when we've talked, you go into every room, you look under this and that, and go in the garden. I mean, it's very complex. I can't imagine even having that visual capabilities as a layperson. Whereas when
Yes.
you come into someone's home, what exactly does this look like? This assessment that you've created, these tools that you can help us with.
Well, let me start with during this time of the COVID-19 and being at home with family and um, are just realizing that there are some things that are needed as our parents age. And I can tell you that usually around the holidays, that's when the kids start to realize that their parents need some things. And that's when they're visiting and they go, oh my goodness, mom or dad, or they're getting older, or, they can't make those stairs anymore, or, you just really get it in your face. And so I think COVID-19 actually did that a little earlier than the holidays.
That's for sure.
Um, and so that being said, I'll give you a couple of suggestions later. And then the other thing is that my evaluation does not start in the home. It really starts at the curb. And sometimes it's the curb down the street because I've gone into homes and the street sign is off. So how can I find the street in an emergency if the street sign isn't there, or if the address is not visible, from the street, if it's hidden behind a plant, a tree, there's no lighting, it's not on the house at all. It's very small. This is just the address, or it kind of fades into the background. And a lot of times people say, well, I have the address on the curb. Well, the address on the curb, a car can be in front of it. On trash day, the trash cans can be in front of it. There's so many things that happen even before we get into the house that we need to see. And the reason why I've become really aware of that is, the firemen, because GPS doesn't always work. And, and not if you call that much, some people are like, oh, the firemen know where I am. Well, if you call that much for falls, then maybe we need to do some things as well.
That's for
uh,
sure.
So once we get into the house, we're looking at, the entrances, the exits, the lighting, the smoke alarms, level changes on the ground. And when I say level changes, I mean transition points from tile to rug. Sometimes our rugs are nice and have a lot of padding, and then there's a lot of padding that's wearing. Um, Sometimes our floors are slippery. And like I said, transition. So all of those things can contribute to falls. um, Especially like we're in our house, people are in their homes all day. They don't realize that there are options to raise their furniture, lower their bed, create more lighting. Just I like to get into organization. Some people lose their remote controls, and I'm like, put Velcro on the back and stick it on the chair or something. You know, um, so when I go into the home, I'm not only like looking for safety, fall prevention, and fall prevention would include earthquake safety because you don't want something to fall on you as well.
Yes,
So
yes.
I don't want the TV or the cabinet or anything like that to fall. And it is a comprehensive, personalized service.
So what about, for example, I know you talked about some people who are really reluctant to make changes. They don't want to admit they're going to potentially fall. Maybe they have like, a little bit of self-conscious, about their condition. They really feel like I'm okay. Yeah, maybe I can bump in this chair here and there, but really I'm okay. And so when you come across these kinds of people, what little things or indications give you an idea that they're not really okay? And how do you approach them so that it's not so in their face? No, no, you're not okay. There's something really wrong here. So I know you have a couple of really interesting examples.
Um, well, I kind of take it off that person and try to assess who is important in their life. Is it the kids, the grandkids, their spouse, whoever comes to visit them, so that they can, so that it's possible that they need that grab bar.
Okay,
They can
okay.
see someone else who needs that, and they want to protect that someone else. So that's a way I can go. Also, what the walls, I do a presentation called "What the Walls Say," without a word. And besides, when you go into someone's house, you see what is important to them, what was important to them. You can see, what medications they're taking if they're out, things like that. But what the wall also says is, what the walls say is, I'm holding on. And so I have had clients that have said, oh no, I don't need a railing. I don't need these things. And then I'll just kind of stand next to the wall. And then I'll show them the impressions that they've made on the wall. And it really, I really don't have to say much. I just kind of draw a little circle on the wall and say, well, right here, we seems like someone's been holding on here. And usually, they realize at that point that I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, they really don't want to admit it, of course. But
Oh
now
God.
the other party that we're always concerned about, right, is the parties who are the caregiving
Yes,
party, who we always tell to take the oxygen first. That's really important. Take
yes,
care of themselves. So we've had situations where there are caregivers who maybe aren't very cautious, or they're not well trained in transfers or whatnot, and they themselves fall. So then
yeah,
you have a situation where, okay, now who's taking care of who?
yeah,
So how do you address the needs of the caregivers, and how do you engage them in the dialogue? Because, a lot of them they're the last to take care of themselves. Like, oh no, no, I'm just here to help my mom or my dad, or the caregiver's here, she's a professional. But oh my God, they're not really that professional. They don't even know. I wouldn't know if it wasn't for
yeah.
you, some of these things that I needed for my mom. I didn't even
Okay,
think about these things. So how
yeah.
do we approach these first time caregivers, or so-called professionals who think they know it all?
Yeah. Well, I think, and there is no study behind this, but I would think that there is no class in caregiving for there's a class in caregiving, I'm sure, but we are very rarely prepared when we become caregivers. That is, it kind of happens upon us. It may start with, can you go with me to the doctor? To, can you bring me some food? Can you stop at the store? Can you come spend the night with me? Can I move in with you? You know what I mean? It's a progression. And then all of a sudden you're like, I am a caregiver, and you're in the midst of it. So you don't want to read about it. A lot
You
of
don't have
times,
time.
yeah,
There's no time.
you don't have time to deal with what's really going on. So when I go into clients' homes, I do talk to the caregiver, whoever the caregiver is. And I can't tell you how many times the caregiver has confided in me how tired they are, or that they have just needed a hug, or they have, just cried. And it's because someone is asking how they're doing.
Right.
um, and how can I help you? And besides the physical things of, wearing closed toe shoes or wearing a back brace so that you don't hurt yourself when trying to transfer or give baths. And it doesn't matter how, I mean, it may not be that advanced. It may just be, um, yes, are you taking time for yourself? Are you going to get your hair done? Are you getting your nails done? Are you, what time are you spending for yourself so that you can be the best you for the person that you're caring for? And then realize that you are not alone. We feel so isolated when we're caregiving, because you can't go to the park and share the information like, parents do.
Parents, yeah. But I
you know
think it's also embarrassing sometimes for caregivers to ask the questions. Like I asked you a lot of questions when my mom was falling out of bed, and that was pretty inspirational for me. And it was like I felt stupid. I'm an educated person. Why couldn't I figure this out? And it's embarrassing when you're supposed to have professional caregivers in a facility, and they're not giving you ideas. And it was very frustrating. But once I got the particulars in place, I think you recommended a partial bed rail that was so helpful. I made that recommendation to so many other people, and the cushioned mat next to the bed, which I still have. That was one of the biggest things that I recommended to other clients of mine, so that if she fell, that she would fall in a soft thing, a spongy, soft thing, as well as lowering her bed. So I never thought of all these things on my own because, like you said, we're too busy and we are, overwhelmed, we're stressed out. And it does take a minute to slow down and ask an expert. And that's what we're kind of offering people at this point is that, during these difficult times, don't try to figure it all out by yourself, because no matter how old or young you are, Kim Hall says we all fall, right? So
yeah.
I really remember that as a go-to motto for everybody, that don't be afraid to ask for help. I mean, we're willing to give everybody a half-hour consult of each of our services, and we collaborate between the clinical team, right? Because you do want a background on your clients, right, and our clients, and understanding what their diagnoses, their meds, and so forth. So it's not just an environmental approach, it's really a holistic approach, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And when I'm talking to people, the fun part of it is like, again, I'm there as a fall prevention specialist, but they kind of feel comfortable with me. I always say there's no judgment in this. This is just to make you. I'm here to accent, not take away. So this is just to make your world better. But then they'll ask me about other things, which is kind of fun. Like I had a client who asked about he said his closet had this smell in it and he couldn't get rid of it. And I was like, oh, get some peppermint. And, I started telling him to get these things that were just totally off, what I should be doing. But I just feel like, if someone's going to ask you, do your best to either tell them what you know and find out. And it's just so fun to really help people and know that there's simple, inexpensive ways to just age gracefully at home.
Absolutely. And at this time of all the stress that we're going through, and all this chaos in our world, is that just having a little extra support can make a huge difference. And I really, really appreciate you coming on today, Kim. It was a pleasure, and I look forward to us doing some more work together and helping more and more people. So thank you ever so much, and hopefully we'll have you on again, and maybe we can actually discuss specific cases that we're working on, because then people can actually relate to an actual situation that, you know, may or may not be relevant to them, but maybe a show and tell, right? So that would be kind of fun.
Yeah. Yes, that would be great. And Gigi, you're awesome. I am just excited to be partnering with you and working with the team and just providing the services. You know, I always say Kim Hall says, "Don't fall." So
Thank you.
and on that note, I appreciate all that you do. And
And we appreciate you too. That's why we're going to have you back. Thanks, Kim.
okay,
Bye.
thank you. Take care.
Bye.